This video is made possible by my patrons on Patreon. Hello everyone, my name is Ziamaro and welcome to Battlerite Sage. Just a quick heads up before I start, I've switched up my streaming schedule. So if you're one of those people who watches these videos as soon as they go out, I'm streaming over at twitch.tv/BattleriteSage. So come say hi after you've finished watching. So in the early days of this channel, I made a video about whether or not you should have a main in Battlerite. Everything I said made sense at the time, but 5 months have passed and a lot has changed since then. For context, at the time that I made the video, even when you played ranked, you just picked a champion, readied up, and the comp you got was totally random. There was no pre-game lobby, no option to pick based on your team, no option to counterpick. And with a system like that, I stick by what I said before. You're best off just picking your most comfortable champion every time. But it's 2018 now. We're living in the future, and it's filled with map bans, pre-game lobbies, and battle royale. So let's revisit the question. Should I have a main? So these days you actually have a lot more flexibility than you used to. And to give you a black or white answer wouldn't really do you any favours. The short answer is, if you're brand new to the game, it's probably still a good idea to find a champion you click with and play it a lot while you learn the ins and outs of Battlerite. Once you have a good grasp of the game mechanics, it's quite easy to learn new champions and expand your champion pool. But the thing is, if you're brand new and you don't know basic stuff like, hey, Paloma's Fear only works if you try to cast something. Depending on the sort of person you are, you might learn faster by playing one champion for a while. If you're learning a new champion while playing, there's a good chance you'll be focusing too much on what each button does or maybe comboing abilities. And if you're doing that, you're not paying enough attention to what your opponent is doing. Personally, I think you can learn more by properly watching what your opponent is doing than having first-hand experience with every champion. For example, you only really need to get caught in Ashka's volcano once to realise, hey, don't stand in that. Or maybe you shoot at his firewall and the projectile gets absorbed. It's quite obvious what that does. You don't actually have to play Ashka to learn those things. There are some things that aren't immediately obvious, like what happens when you hit Rukan's Consume. Well, you can just look at the tooltips for that, and that's something you would probably be doing even if you were learning the champion. Of course, don't let me put you off trying everything out. If you learn better by doing, just go ahead. Everyone learns in different ways and at a different pace. So here's the truth with the current system. Once you're more experienced, if you're a flexible player and you can play 3, 4 or more champions to the same level, you do have an advantage with the pre-game lobby. Being able to flex champions and roles is very useful. But conversely, there are top players who can flex champions but have very strong comfort picks. For example, Hot Biscuit's Ashka or Averse's Tyre. So if you're exceptional with one champion, you can make having a main work. So I think whether or not you choose to pick a main is based on a few things. Firstly, ask yourself, what is your goal in Battlerite? Do you only want to play soloQ? Do you want to eventually find a team and compete in tournaments? Or maybe something in between? If you want to play in a team, I would recommend picking a role you're comfortable with and learning as many champions in that role as possible. A team where each member can play 6 champions in their chosen role will be more flexible than a team where every person in the team can play 2 champions in every role. Think about it this way. Either way, you each have a champion pool of 6. But if you play 2 champions in every role, there might be some champion crossover. Let's say all 3 of you can play Blossom. Well, that doesn't really help you because you can't play 3 Blossoms. If, on the other hand, you each play 6 champions in your chosen role, there won't be any crossover, and that gives you a lot more flexibility as a team. But maybe you're not interested in finding a team, and you're more interested in soloQ. So if you want to play mostly soloQ, just pick a champion you're strong with and get really good with it. If you play support, try and learn a DPS in case you end up with a double support comp and need to flex. If you mainly play melee or ranged, learn a support in case your team doesn't have one. If you're playing with a team, you always know someone can play something in each role, but in soloQ you don't know who you're going to get on your team. So the ability to switch between roles is actually more useful than having a wide pool within one role. So if you can play 2 or 3 roles to the same level, that's really useful in soloQ. So it's worth stressing that when I say a main, I don't mean one trick. Those are 2 very different things. Having a main means that you have a comfort pick, but doesn't mean you can't play other stuff. Being a one-trick means you only play one champion, and that comes with its own problems. The main one being, if your champion gets nerfed into the ground, what are you going to do? For that reason alone, I do think it's important to play more than one champion. Using myself as an example, I was a Paloma one-trick in preseason, and it served me pretty well. Season 1 has been a different story though. With the introduction of the pre-game lobby combined with the meta not being particularly favourable to Paloma in the first few weeks, I had quite a hard time. So I've spent most of Season 1 just expanding my champion pool. Paloma is still my comfort pick, but I can now play 6 supports to a decent level. So I'll still pick Paloma a lot of the time, but if I get a Shifu, Croak or Freya on my team, 3 melee who don't always work that well with Paloma, I can switch to something else that does work with them. So in conclusion, you can get on just fine whether you have a main or whether you can flex to absolutely everything. Each approach has its pros and cons, so the route you take really depends on what your long-term goals are. And at the end of the day, just do whatever you find most fun. Because remember guys, it's a game and you're supposed to have fun. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please feel free to subscribe for more Battlerite guides, news and discussion. If you'd like to help support the channel and get some unique rewards, then head over to patreon.com/battleritesage. And don't forget to check out twitch.tv/battleritesage. Until next time, thank you for watching and I'll see you soon.